I want everyone to know the basics of Excel. That is why in this video you can learn Excel from scratch. We're going to talk about basic Excel layout, entering and editing data in Excel, basic Excel formulas, working with basic Excel functions, formatting the data, and in the end we'll create a very basic chart in Excel. If you know nothing about Excel, this video is right for you. My name is Mohammed. I have completed multiple courses on Microsoft Excel and I have been using Excel for almost a decade, and to be honest, I'm still learning because Excel is an evolved software which is constantly changing from time to time. This video is just a basic introduction of Excel. If you want to learn advanced Excel, I would highly recommend you to subscribe to my Excel gurus, which are Laila Karani and Chandu. Also, you don't need to worry about the version of Excel on your PC. This video is right for you. So without wasting any time, let's jump to the PC. To open Excel, just go to Start menu and type Excel and click on the icon. I'm using Microsoft 365 version of Excel. So depending on the version of Excel you have on your PC, it might look like a little bit different. On the left side, you have Home, New and Open. In Home, we have a blank workbook and some basic tutorials of Excel. If you scroll down a little, you can see recommended for you, and they are recommended based on your activity. Upon scrolling again, I can see my recent files. Next, if we go to New, I have the option to create a blank workbook, and below this there are hundreds of templates to choose from, and you can also search for templates. In the Open button, I can open workbooks from my cloud storage and also from my PC. For this tutorial, let's go to Home and just open a blank workbook. Before doing anything, just understand the basics of a spreadsheet. Whenever you open a blank workbook, you will always see sheet 1 at the lower left, and you can create multiple sheets, and these multiple sheets collectively called a workbook. Right now my workbook has only one sheet. In Excel, a sheet is made of columns like A, B and C and so on. Whenever I select a letter in a column, the entire column gets selected. We also have rows in Excel like 1, 2, 3 and so on. Each column in Excel is mentioned by its letter and each row is mentioned by its number. The intersection of column and row is what we call a cell. If I select the first cell in Excel, this cell is the intersection of column A and row 1, and so known as cell A1. If I select this cell is B3 and this cell is D6. You can see the cell number in the name box. And when you click on a cell, the cell becomes active. If I select a group of cells in Excel with the cursor, this is a range. A range is a collection of cells which are grouped together. If I select A1 cell and drag it to select the group of cells in Excel, this is a range. You can see that when I select a range and keep on holding the left mouse button, the Excel shows me how many rows and columns I have selected, and when I leave the mouse button, it shows me the cell from I dragged. So in Excel, I have selected from the range of A1 to D7. In Excel, you can say A1 through D7. Everything in Excel is done on a sheet or spreadsheet. You can add multiple sheets by clicking this plus sign. Now I have sheet 1, sheet 2 and sheet 3. The collection of the sheets collectively called a workbook. When you right click on a sheet, you have different options like insert, delete, rename and much more. We will cover this in later part of the course. Whenever you open a sheet in Excel, you will notice tabs, and by default the Home tab is selected, and there are also multiple tabs in Excel which are insert, page layout, formulas and other tabs. If you select a tab, the tools available in each tab changes, and the tools in each tab collectively called as ribbon, and each ribbon is divided into groups. If I click on Home tab, the first group is clipboard, second is font, third is alignment, and they are separated by a line. Each group in the ribbon cannot show all the options. By default, they only have such options which are used mostly. So if I click on the little arrow which is a launch button, one thing you will notice that not all the groups have this little arrow because they have all the options in front of us. If you click on the arrow key of the font group, it will open a new window within Excel with more options like numbers, alignment, font, border. In Microsoft Excel, we also have different features like a zoom slider. You can zoom in and out and it will not affect your sheet or your data within a sheet. Just on the left side of zoom slider, you have different views button like normal view, page layout view and page break view. But majority of the Excel users like me use Excel in normal view. In Excel, there is a very special bar which is called formula bar. This is a place where you will enter or edit your formulas in Microsoft Excel. At the end of the video, I just want to save my Excel file. For this, I'll just go to File, click on Save, click Browse and save it to a folder. Let's say I work as a teacher at a school and I have been asked to create a report for the students' performance in different subjects. If I want to add some information to a cell, first I have to select the cell, then I can enter my data in a cell. First I will give a heading to my first column by selecting it and type number of students. And then I'll press enter. Whenever I tap something in a cell and press enter, the active cell moves down. Now I will enter 1 for first subject, 2 for second and 3 for third. I have 6 students in a class, so I can easily type from 1 to 6. If you are working on a data which have hundreds of rows, so typing each number is so time consuming. Do you know, to save our time on this task, Excel has a built-in feature known as Autofill. It works well when you enter a specific pattern and Excel then extend the pattern. So I developed a pattern which is 1, 2 and 3. Now I want Excel to follow this pattern. When I select the first cell, which is A1, and drag it to cell A4, you can notice a tiny green square at the lower right corner of the selected cells. This green square is called autofill handle. You can also select the cells by selecting the first cell and then hold shift and down arrow key. Right now my cursor is a white thick plus sign, but when I place my icon directly to a small green square, it turns into a black plus sign. With this cursor, if I click and drag the right mouse button, I can go to my desired number, which is 6, and then I will release the mouse button. By doing this, Excel automatically extend the pattern to my desired number. For the next column, I will add the column heading, which is student's name. And for the next columns, I will also add the subject names, which are English, General Knowledge, Mathematics and Computer Science. One thing you have noticed that column headings, which are number of students, student name and subjects, are not fully visible according to a cell size. To display their name, I can click and hold the line between the letter A and B, and I can do the same with other columns. If I have hundreds of column headings and I cannot repeat this with each column. To do this in a very fast way, I just need to click this button. When I click the button, it turned green and my whole sheet is selected. Now just go to any line between the letters and double click it. Now all the column headings are fully visible in the sheet. Now I will type the first name of all the students, which are Muhammad, Jones, Fatima, Mary, Amanda and Sarah. And this is the list of students in my class. One thing I have noticed that there is a typo in the name of Jones. Instead of Johns, I have entered Jons, so H is missing on the name. To change this, I will click on the cell and now it becomes an active cell. If I just type the letter H, then it will remove whatever in the cell. So to edit the contents of the cell, I have to double click in the cell, and with the help of arrow keys, I can move the cursor and type the missing letter and press enter. Now please give me a few seconds and I will add total number of marks students obtained in each subject. Next, I have to add maximum marks for each subject. To do this, I'll click on the cell B8 and type maximum marks. When I typed maximum marks, I have noticed that I have a blank cell on the left side and I want to utilize it. I want maximum marks to span multiple columns. To do so, I will highlight both the cells and go to Home tab. And in the Home tab under Alignment Group, there is a tool which is Merge and Center. I'll just click on Merge and Center. Now the contents of the cells are divided into two cells. You can also unmerge cells by selecting the merge cells and again clicking on the tool which is Merge and Center. Our sixth topic is autofill again. I have 4 subjects and each subject carries a maximum of 50 marks. So I'll type 50 under English and 50 for the next subject. I can easily type 50 for the remaining 2 subjects. If you have multiple data to enter, then this task is so boring and repetitive. Remember the autofill function? I gave Excel a pattern with 2 numbers. So I'll just select the cells and drag it to the right side until it covers the remaining 2 subjects. While I was preparing the report, I forgot to add a new student in my sheet. So I want to add the new student after row 7 but before row 8. To add a new row in Excel, I have two options. First, I will go to 8th row and select the whole row and right click without moving my cursor. From the menu, I have different options. For now, I'll just click on Insert. You notice that a new row has been added above the selected row. To show you the second option, I'll just press Ctrl+Z. According to the second method, to add a new row, just select cells where you want to add a new row. Go to Home tab and under the cells group, click on the little arrow and select Insert Sheet Rows. Now I will add the second student. Now my task is to calculate total marks obtained by each student in a total of 4 subjects. To do this, I need to add marks for each student in the cell G2. First, I'll name my column, which is total marks. And now I'll create my first formula. In Excel, whenever you create a formula, you always start with an equal sign. And then I'll type 46 for English, followed by a plus sign, 46 for general knowledge, 50, 47, and then I press enter on keyboard to see the total marks of Muhammad in 4 subjects. You can also do multiplication by using asterisk, division by / and subtraction by using minus sign. I can easily type the numbers of 4 subjects, but if I have more subjects, so typing each number is so time consuming. There is another efficient way to do this. First, I'll remove the formula, and again for an Excel formula, I'll start with an equal sign. And instead of manually entering the number, I will use a cell reference, which is a dynamic way to use Excel. So for Muhammad, the cell name of English marks is C2 plus D2 plus E2 plus F2, and then I press enter. As you can see, whenever I type the cell name, each cell is color coded. Why I call this method dynamic? Because if there is a mistake in any of the marks, I can simply change the numbers by going to the cell, and whenever I change the value, the total marks will auto change. For now, just press Ctrl+Z to go to the original marks. There is another way to insert formulas in Excel, which is a lot more easier. Instead of typing the cell number for each subject, again I'll put an equal sign, and now I can simply click on the cell, plus next cell, plus next, and then press enter. If I single click the total marks, they are just number. If I double click the cell of total marks, they are formulas of total marks. From the previous lectures, you have probably now have a solid understanding of the autofill. If not, we just repeat it again. If you have a pattern in Excel and you want Excel to follow it, just go to last formula and click on the cell. You can notice a tiny green square at the lower right corner of the selected cells. This green square is called autofill handle. Just click on it and drag it to the end. I have only 9 rows, and if you have hundreds of rows, this autofill drag can take your so much time. So for now, I'll press Ctrl+Z, and to save our time, I'll just double click the tiny green square at the lower right corner of the selected cells, and it will automatically autofills the pattern. Now I want to calculate the percentage of each student. I'll give a name to column, which is percentage. Now let's use a formula to calculate percentage. Remember, to insert a formula always starts with an equal sign, then open parenthesis, total obtained marks, which is in cell G2, divided by total marks, which is cell G9, close parenthesis, multiply by 100, and press enter. So the percentage of Muhammad is 93, and to autofill formula I'll use flash fill, but when I drag it, it gives me an error, and if you check the error, it is divided by 0 error. Remember, the flash fill in Excel uses a pattern. So to see the formula of the cell, I can always look into the formula bar, or I can double click the cell and I can also see the formula, which is G2 divided by G9 multiplied by 100. Excel follows the flash fill pattern by inserting the cell G3 and G10. If you look at the cell G10, it don't have any value in it. This is the reason it gives an error. To solve this error, we will use absolute cell reference feature of Excel. Absolute cell reference is a way to specify a cell or range of cells that should always be referenced the same, even if the formula is copied or moved. So to reference the G9, I'll remove my previous formula and write the new formula starting with an equal sign, open parenthesis, total obtained marks, which is in cell G2, divided by total marks, which is cell G9. But before the letter G and the number 9, I'll put a dollar sign, close parenthesis, multiplied by 100. Now I will flash fill the formula by dragging it to the last student. When I double click the cell, I can see the formula which shows that the cell G9 is referenced and it can be used in all the cells. In a simpler way, the cell G9 is locked. First, I'll share the difference between a function and a formula. A function in Excel is a predefined formula that performs calculations using specific values. A formula is an equation designed by a user in Excel. Don't confuse function with formula. These two are different things. For the column G and H, which are total marks and percentage, I have used formula. For now, let's remove the formulas. First, I'll perform a very basic function, which is a sum. In the cell G2, I'll start my function with an equal signs and type sum. There are also different functions in Excel which start from sum, like sum if, sum ifs and other. In front of each sum function, there is a little bit of description which shows what it will do. The sum function will add all the numbers in a range of cells. Remember, when we type a formula and press enter, it gives us the answer. But for the function, if I press enter, it just gives me a name error, which means Excel can't find the data it needs to calculate. To correct this, I'll delete it and again start with equals, sum, and as you can see, there are other sum functions which we will explore in the coming lectures. For now, I'll go to the sum, and from the keyboard I can press tab or I can double click with the mouse button. When I select the sum function, Excel automatically inserted a left parenthesis at the beginning of the function. If you have an older version of Excel, you can add it manually. As soon as I inserted a function in Excel, it gave me suggestion that you can add numbers separated by a comma. But I want to add a range of this function. To add a range, I can simply drag from cell C2 to F2 and press enter. Do not worry about the right parenthesis, it will be automatically added. There is another way to add a cell range in sum function. Type equals, sum and press tab and mention the range from cell C2 colon F2 and press enter. It will give you the answer. Some functions in Excel are very common, so Excel developers placed a dedicated button in Excel. I'll select the cell G3 and instead of typing anything, I'll just go to Home tab, and under the editing ribbon there is an option which is auto sum. I'll simply click it and Excel automatically detects what I want to sum and just press enter. If you click on the little arrow next to auto sum, there are other options too which are commonly used in Excel. Remember flash fill from the previous lectures? I'm using the flash fill again and again because it's a very useful feature of Excel and you will use a lot in your Excel journey. It works well when you enter a specific pattern and Excel then extends the pattern. So I developed a pattern which is sum of cells C2 to F2 and then C3 to F3, and now I want Excel to follow this pattern. When I select the cell which is G3, you can notice a tiny green square at the lower right corner at the selected cells. This green square is called Autofill handle. I'll just double click and Excel automatically completes my task. I calculated the percentage for each student by following a formula. Now I will use a predefined percentage style. To calculate percentage, I have to type the formula because Excel don't have a divide function. I'll type a formula starting with equal signs, obtain marks divided by total marks and press enter. Recall previous lectures and repeat in your head. For autofill, Excel follows a pattern. If I use autofill, Excel will give me an error, so I'll log the cell G9. To do this, I'll remove this formula and in the first formula, I'll log the cell G9. And to log this, I'll double click the cell and put a dollar sign in front of the G and dollar sign in front of 9 and press enter. If I double click on any of the formulas, you can see that the cell G9 is locked by making it an absolute cell reference. To calculate percentage, I'll just select the cells and in the Home tab under the number ribbon, I simply click on percentage button and it will convert my numbers into professional looking percentages. Now let's use an if function which is a little bit complex. In the column I want to add the grade of each student. I know my school rule, which is if total numbers are above 90%, then it's an A plus, above 80% it's an A, and above 70% it's a B. But on Excel I will perform it with the help of function, which is an if function. First I'll name my column with grades. In the column I2 I'll start the function with equals, type if, and press tab. I'll use a nested if function, which is a little bit complex, but don't worry, I got your back. Select cell H2, which is my score, and if the score is greater than 90%, return A plus, comma again, if function, and if the score is greater than 80%, return A, comma, if function, and the score is greater than 70%, return B. This is the grade of Muhammad, and for other students I don't need to enter the if function again and again. I'll just use the autofill handle and drag it to the last student. This will automatically mention the grade for each student. By following the if function in Excel, you can have so much possibilities. First of all, we will add a border around our data. To add a border, just select your data and go to Home tab. And in the font group, there is an option to add borders. And if I click on the little arrow next to border, I have so many options for the borders, which are bottom, top, left, and right border, and so on. For this table, I'll select all borders. And now you can see my data has a visible black lines with each column and row. You must be wondering that what about the border on top and left side of the data? Don't worry, they are not visible in sheet, but our table has borders at all the sides. Right now I am not able to distinguish the data from my column names. I want my column headings to pop out from the rest of the data. I'll just select the column and press Ctrl plus B. Or in the Home tab, I'll just go to bold icon and click on it. For the last row, I'll also bold my maximum marks. For the columns H and I, which are percentage and grades, I want to center them because they are important for me. I'll just select the percentage and grades. Again in the Home tab under alignment group, go to this button and click on it. It will center the contents of the table. For this data, I only have 9 rows. And what if I have hundreds of rows, and to enter data in each column, I have to go to the top of my sheet to see my column headings. There is an option in Excel which freezes the top row. To freeze the top row, go to the View tab, and under window group, there is a tool which is freeze pans. Press the little arrow next to it and you have 3 different options: freeze pans, freeze top row, and freeze first column. For this lecture, I'll choose freeze top row. Now when I scroll down my sheet, the top row is always visible to me. For this tutorial, I only have one sheet, but if I have multiple sheets like sheet 2, 3, 4, and many more, it is difficult to distinguish each sheet. So when I right click the sheet 1, I have different options which are insert, delete, rename, and many more. If I want to rename my sheet, I'll just click on rename and rename it like class of 2024. To make my sheets more visible, I can even color them. Again, I'll right click on it and go to the tab color and select whatever color I like for my class. I can even delete my sheet, but remember, when you delete a sheet, it will be permanently deleted. So I'll delete my Excel sheets. I can even make multiple copies of this sheet, so for each class I don't have to type the metadata from the scratch. To make a copy of this sheet, I'll right click it and click move or copy. A new window will open and I'll select class of 2024 and check the option which is create a copy and click OK. Excel just created a new sheet with the same color code and even the same name, but mentioning 2 because it's a second copy of the same sheet. For now, I'll delete the sheet. In Excel, we also have an option in which we can format our number. If I write today's date, merge and center it for the column percentage and grades. In the Home tab, there is a group which is number, and if I click on this little arrow, I have different options like general, number currency, and many more. If I select my date and again go to this option, and Excel gives me two date options, which is short and long date. I can choose any of them, and Excel also have more number formats options, and if I click on more number formats, a new window will appear, and on the left there are many categories, and for this tutorial I'll choose date category. And now I have different type of date categories, and I can choose whatever I like and click OK. There is a very handy tool in Excel which converts your data into a professional looking table. Just select at any cell in your data, and in the Home tab, go to Styles group and click on the down arrow of Format as Table. Upon clicking, I have different modes like light, medium and dark. I can select whatever style I like. I'll select first style from the medium, and a small window will appear which is confirming that your data is from A1 to I9, and it also asks me if the data has headers. Yes, we have headers, and click OK. My table is converted from a boring to a professional looking table with just a click of a button. I can also change the style of my table by going into the Table Design tab and choose any style. One thing which is worth mentioning here that when I choose the style option, I check the option my table has header. Excel automatically creates arrows in the header of a column to indicate sort order, error checking or other options. If I click on the right arrow next to student's name, I have different options which are sort, sort by color and other options. There is also a search option available for me, and for this tutorial I only have 7 students. If I have hundreds of students, I can search by their name. For example, in the column B, which is student's name, if I'll type Muhammad and select OK, so only the data of Muhammad is visible to me in my sheet. I'll again click on the student's name and click on clear filter from student's name. You can do this for other columns too. If you want to go back to your normal table, just select anywhere in the table, go to Table Design tab. Under the Table Styles group, click on the drop down menu, and at the bottom you will see Clear. Just click Clear. If you also want to remove the arrows in front of each column heading, again go to Table Design tab, go to Tools group and click on Convert to Range. This will convert the table into a normal range of cells, and click Yes. You are already familiar with the data analysis and data visualization capabilities of Excel. For this lecture, I'll create a basic chart based on my data. First, I'll select the data by highlighting the cells. Then I'll go to Insert tab, and under the chart groups, I'll click on Insert Column or Bar Chart. In this, I have different categories like 2D and 3D column or bar chart. I'll select clustered column from 2D column. As you can see, the chart is blank because I gave the Excel a very different type of columns like number of students, student's name, subject, marks and grades. Let's say if I delete the chart and again go to Insert tab, and under the charts group I'll click on recommended charts and click on the first recommended chart. Excel gave me a chart based on my selection, but I am unable to interpret it. Let's again delete the chart and again select the data from column B to column F and press a shortcut key to create a chart, which is Alt plus F1. Now you can see that there are different students in which subjects are clustered above them. Now this chart is easy to understand and I can share it with my manager. One thing here is worth mentioning that when I created a chart, a new chart tab appears through which I can change its design and different options. If I only want to see the total marks for all the students, then again I'll delete the chart and select the column B, and while holding the control key on my keyboard, I'll select total marks, and you can see the shortcut to create chart is Alt plus F1. Or you can go to Insert tab, in Charts group click on Insert Column, Bar Chart and choose Clustered Column in 2D column. Now this chart is easy to interpret. Once you have created your chart, it's time to edit so it looks professional. When you click on the chart, it gives you 3 different options, which are chart elements, chart styles and chart filters. Most of the time in Excel we have to add chart elements, so we will focus on this. You can also access the chart elements by going to the Chart Design tab, and under the Charts layer group you can click on the add chart elements to access all the options. If you have an older version of Excel, the chart elements will appear under Chart Design tab. First, I'll rename my chart by triple clicking the title, which is Report Card 2024. I'll again click on the chart and click on chart elements, and a new mini menu will open with further options. I want to add axis titles of both primary, horizontal and vertical. I'll check them. I'll add the titles, which are students and total marks. I want to see the total marks of each student at the top of the column. I can also add it from chart elements button available next to chart, but I'll add from the chart design tab so you can see both the options. Go to the chart design tab and under chart layouts, click on add chart elements. Now go to the data labels and select outside end. One thing to keep in mind that when I click off the chart design ribbon disappears, and when I click on the chart, the tab appears again. Now I'll edit my chart. First, I'll change the font size and color of the chart. I'll select the chart and go to Home tab and choose my desired font, size and color. Now I'll bold the axis titles and main titles. For bold, I'll use the shortcut key, which is Ctrl+B. One thing which I don't like is the font size of data labels. I'll reduce its size by selecting the data labels and click decrease font from the Home tab. Now I'll add an outline on the vertical and horizontal axis. I'll select the chart and right click on vertical axis, click on outline and choose black color. For horizontal axis, I'll do the same. Now I'll remove the axis grid line by clicking on any line and hit the delete key from keyboard. I don't like the color of my columns, so I'll right click on the column, fill and choose a color I like. Now I'll apply borders for the columns again, right click on the column, outline and choose black color. The borders are not visible. I'll increase the weight to 1 point. Now my chart is a professional looking chart. If you like this chart and want to use it in your other projects, you can save the chart by right clicking on it and choose Save as Template to your desired location. Now my sheet and my chart is ready to print. To print this sheet, I'll go to File, Print. In the print review, my 5 columns are on page 1 and other columns are on page 2. That's very unprofessional. To fit my sheet on the entire page, I'll go back. One thing I've noticed that when I moved back from the print review, my Excel sheet is showing me dotted lines. These dotted lines represent the page which will print my Excel sheet. To further confirm the print preview, I'll go to View tab and under the workbook views, I'll click Page Break Preview. Now that's page 1 and page 2. I'll again click on Normal and then click on Page Layout, Orientation and choose Landscape. Now I'll again go to File and Print. Now my last 2 columns are in page 2. So to fix this, I'll go to View, Page Break View and move the blue dotted line at the end of the data. Now when I use the shortcut key, which is Ctrl+P, my sheet is print friendly. Now I can choose my desired printer and select the number of copies I want to print. It's up to you. Do you want to print only 1 page or give a range? There are many different file options in which you can save your Excel document. If I click on Save a Copy and then click on Browse, a new window will appear, and if you click on Save as Type, there are many file types. Excel's default format is .xlsx. If I want to save my sheet as a PDF, I'll simply select the PDF. I'll give it a name and save it to my desktop. When I open my PDF, it's a professional looking chart along with the data.